There's 2 million Arabs who have complete equality with Jews. He's not one of those guys. There's 2 million Arabs who have complete equality with Jews. Complete equality. In fact, an Arab judge has sent a Jewish prime minister and a Jewish president to jail. There were hundreds of mosques throughout Israel. That's what I want. The flip side is
Massan didn't let me in, but that's another.
The flip side is not true, however. There's not one Jew in the Palestinian Authority. There's no synagogues. They destroyed them all. Jews aren't allowed to hold office. Jews aren't even allowed to be citizens. And so for me, when I look at the two, I say, okay, Israel is more moral in how it treats the minority.
Depends what you mean moral, right? I mean, that's from a secular Western secular perspective.
I mean, from a religious perspective.
So you would say in a religious perspective,
I would say it is
in an ideal
I would
Jewish...
say it's haram what the Muslims in Palestine do and the Palestinian territories do. It's haram because they ban Jews from being citizens. Muhammad didn't ban Jews from being citizens.
That's something else, yeah.
Umar didn't ban Jews. Umar invited the Jews back to Jerusalem.
Yeah, I'm talking about from a Jewish perspective. From a Jewish perspective, would you have Gentiles in public office? I mean, not Israel. I mean, in the past, in some of the Jewish kingdoms, would you have Gentiles and pagans in public office? I mean, I don't think
there's
would,
a concept of a ger tashav, which is a resident alien. So it's a citizen of the state that isn't Jewish. They have to subscribe to certain laws. They have their own religious codes. It's actually quite similar to how Islam operates. What would happen in but this was like the last time we had this was 2,000 years ago.
I get it, but
and today, if we had a theocracy, it would be very different. So it's hard to say. Basically, the sages of our generation would determine what rank a non-Jew. For instance, you wouldn't have a non-Jewish king because the king has to be from a certain line. But we're getting into like ancient concepts which wouldn't be applicable today. We wouldn't have a king. We'd have a religious court.
You might have a king one day. I mean, if it happened, how would it work? You know. I mean, I don't think Israel itself is the ideal for a Jewish state, is it?
So I think it's the best that's available for us at the moment. And what I mean by that is, in the old days, like the ancient kingdom, if you sat on the Sanhedrin, which is the court that determines what that made it a theocracy, which made it a religious state, the judges had to be steeped in secular wisdom and steeped in Jewish law. They were the greatest minds, like secular and religious minds, and they are the people that define the Judaism I practice today. They define the values, or they helped shape the values that modernity is based upon. And so these great scholars who spoke multiple languages, knew mathematics, science, philosophy, Torah, halacha, everything, we don't have that today. Our rabbis today are incredibly knowledgeable on Jewish law, but ignorant where it comes to secular law. So I don't think we are ready for a religious state. There would be division.
But what would be the ideal? These rabbis,
the ideal
what are they?
How it was set up before, I believe, is the ideal, but we're just not ready for that.
With the kingdom.
The key thing is the Sanhedrin, the Beit Din Hagadol, which is the Supreme Court, and they would set laws for the people. It was like made of 71 plus men. And they would determine what laws the people
The last time that was Ezra, or
so it's actually we kind of consider it to be Rab Ashin Ravina, who were the final rabbis who brought together the Talmud and helped codify the Talmud. Because basically how it works is, does a court have the authority to rule for all Jews in the land? And when we went into exile, it became very hard to have one court judging for all Jews. And so what I believe is that this court system was the great system. You had the finest religious and secular minds in one court, and they would pass a law, and if the people accepted the law, they followed the law, it became binding. If the people were unable to, the court then had to repeal the law, as long as it didn't contravene Torah law. So as an example, Jews are not allowed to drink wine that could have been used for idolatry. And so they decreed that we can't even use wine that's been handled by a non-Jewish person in case that non-Jew used it for idolatry. They made this, and that's binding today. I can only drink wine or grape juice that's been handled by Jews in case it's been used for idolatry. They made the same decree for olive oil. but the people weren't able to keep the olive oil, and they kept on buying Greek olive oil. So the court repealed that law, and so what you have is this court system, which is like a balance of having like a meritocracy, the greatest minds, but are only able to pass laws that the people democratically accept. So for me, that's a good system, and that is our system. It would obviously be updated because man has updated since.
So it is how you do it. Yeah, I get it. So the democracy of Israel, if you like, kind of does fit in with that.
Yeah, I think Israel's not religious though, and it's not ready to be religious. Israel's very divided between secular and religious people, and you wouldn't be able to have a panel of rabbis that the secular Jews would accept, and you wouldn't have a secular leaders that the religious Jews would accept.
So what's your plan for the territories which would be the ideal? Is it a gradual
my
takeover?
Plan, my plan is to advocate for peace, but advocate for a strong Israel. So peace without compromising Jewish security. There is certain places over the Green Line. I absolutely think Israel has a league. I was there literally last week at a place called Givat Etam, which is just outside of Efrat, which is just south of Bethlehem. Israel purchased that land in 1943 from a monastery at the bottom of the valley. Israel has every right to that land, by legally and everything. That land was purchased by Jews. It's Jewish land. It should not be part of the Palestinian state. I would potentially compromise that in the name of peace. Like, my friend lives there. He has a farm there, and I would be supportive of giving up that farm if it brought lasting peace, but it would have to be lasting and sincere peace. I'm not willing to compromise land for fake peace and for false peace. But I'm agnostic. Any solution that brings lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians.
Interesting.
How about you?
You know, I'm not a political commentator, but yeah, you know.
Or have you got views that you'd rather not say on camera?
No, I think it's in an Islamic system, Jews would be, obviously, as you know, should be allowed to live within an Islamic system anyway.
So my thing is, I don't want to live under Muslims, though.
I know, no, it's fine. I'm just saying.
But I agree with you.
Yeah, it should be. You know, like you say, it's not always been the case, but you know, Islam allows that. It's good. Just wanted to know, you know, kind of what you. It's not often you get a chance to speak to.
No, likewise, I thank you for. I think you're a good ambassador of Islam. You've dealt with me with respect. You've listened. You haven't shouted over. I think it's been a very good conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to know what, you know. Ideally, as I said, I wanted to speak more about the beliefs and the revelation perspective. The politics, you know, I'm not too involved or interested.
Politics is the dunya. You're interested in.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Jewish concept of revelation more, and where it came from, and how you justify it, and how you know prophecy ended, for instance. It's quite important. Yeah, I wasn't allowed in Israel last time I went. They stopped me at the airport and sent me back. So the weird thing is they asked. I wrote a book about atheism.
Yeah.
So they said, you wrote a book about atheism? I said, yeah. They said, you're going to write a book about Judaism? I said, probably not, because Muslims are not becoming Jewish.
Yeah.
It's not a theological challenge for us in that perspective. They didn't like it, so.
That's quite interesting. Usually when people don't get let into the country, it's because they've been involved in hostile activity in the country. But meeting you don't strike me as the type that would be.
I've never been to any protests. I don't agree with protests, full stop, on the streets. You know, I don't agree with public protests. It's not something I subscribe to.
If you do visit again, I'll give you my card, and I'm not saying I can get you into the country, but I know people. I would connect with the Israeli government regularly. I know people that work in that area, and there's maybe something I can do to help.
Yeah, I spoke to Tobiah Singer as well. Rabbi, I don't know if you know him.
I know him well.
Yeah, I spoke to him. I speak to him sometimes as well, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said, look, when you get there, you know, I would like to go. And
just make sure I'm recording.
but yeah, I said I'm just interested in picking your brain, and
Yeah.
I've not seen your videos. I don't.
Most of my videos are the worst. Like, 'cause I come to this park, it's filled with anti-Semites, many of them are Muslim, and so my videos are conflict. I would much rather have a conversation like this, where it's respectful, we learn from each other. I'm not threatened by you, you're not threatened by me. It shows my audience that actually this park isn't just filled with lunatics, they're actually good Muslims who have a good head on their shoulders that don't keep slaves. Even for freeing.
No, but yeah, I still actually would like to do that one day. Free a slave.
I mean, I'd like to free many slaves, I just wouldn't like to purchase one to do it.
Okay. It's nice speaking to you.
Likewise. Jazak Allah Khair, Thank you.
I don't know which one's yours.
This one's my one.